Hi everyone, and welcome back to Solution for Pre-Sales. Today's episode will be a bit different from the previous ones. It's time to talk about what happens off-pitch. Pre-sales is not only about the documents, presentations, or cross-functional work inside a company. A big part of our job actually happens during the business travel, at the client side, during the discovery sessions, workshops, presentations, and POCs. And many important decisions are made exactly there, face to face. That's why I believe it's worth talking about the part of our work that is not written in the job description, but still directly affecting both quality of what we deliver and the quality of our own lives. How we travel, how we prepare, how we recover, all this shapes our professionalism and our personal balance. When we talk about the business travel, it's clear that not all trips are the same. There are long-distance trips and short, and each of them requires different approach to planning. The way you prepare, the way you choose your flights and the hotel, and even the way you manage your energy can be very different depending on the type of the trip. In this first part, let's start with the long-distance journeys. The ones that take most effort and often set the tone for entire business experience. Sometimes the simplest things about the planning of the business trip seems obvious. And that's why people often forget about them. I think this is important to start with the general idea. You should plan your business trip as a whole set of details, not just the flight and the meeting. First, you need to make sure that the flight itself is as comfortable as possible and not too long. The arrival time is especially important. For me, the time of arrival is the more critical than the time of departure. It's easier for me to wake up earlier and take the morning flight than arrive at a new place at such a time that I spend the whole day barely standing on my feet and fighting the desire to sleep. A long daytime nap after the long flight almost always breaks your adaptation to the new time zone. When you are planning for the arrival time, you should take into consideration which country you are flying to and how long it will take to get from the airport to the city. In some places, the trip to the city center can take 20 or 30 minutes. In others, you can get stuck in the traffic for 1 or 2 hours, like I did in Jakarta or Moscow. The main thing is to avoid the very early and very late arrivals, especially if you are crossing several time zones. The best option is to arrive in the second half of the day, but not too late in the evening. It's important to give your body at least a little time to adjust and get ready to sleep. It's very hard to arrive to go through the passport control, collect your luggage, get to the hotel, and go to the bed immediately. Almost always, sleep in this case is poor, and the next day you feel exhausted. Now, let's talk about the hotel. In my view, the hotel choice is something that you should treat very seriously. I usually don't stay in apartments. I prefer the hotels. On a business trip, service is important. Breakfast, cleaning, ability to solve small issues quickly at the reception. Morning before a meeting is not the best time to run around to look for the food. There is also one more bonus with the hotels. A lot of people who is also travel for the work stay there, and there's always the chance to meet someone new. As for the location of the hotel, for me the ideal option is when a hotel is about 10-15 minutes walk from the meeting place. This is convenient for the several reasons. In the morning you can have a short walk. On the way you can easily find a place for a coffee or light snack, alone or with the colleagues before the meeting. After the meeting, in turn, you have a short walk back to the hotel to clear your head. Get changed, breathe out, think through the discussed result with the colleagues. This 10-15 minutes distance feels ideal to me. But of course, I can depend on the many other factors as well. For example, whether you are traveling in the group, corporate hotel rates, or your company's recommendations. So, my example is more about the personal preferences and what works for me when I travel alone. Now, the meetings can happen on the different days in the week: Monday, midweek, Friday, and this also influences how you plan your trip. Let's say it's long distance business trip and the meeting is scheduled by the end of the week. That's a good option. You can stay for a weekend, get to know country or the city a bit. A place where you probably won't fly just for the vacation. Apparently, if the meeting on the Monday or Tuesday, I usually try to arrive in such a way that I still have at least some time on the Sunday to walk around and adapt, but not turn into the full tourist marathon. Now let's talk about another type of the trip, the short ones, which are easier in terms of the logistic but still have their own specific. These trips are often very short, sometimes just 1 or 2 days. For example, you arrive late in the evening, have a meeting in the morning, and fly back on the same day. Here is why I pay attention on such trips. First, for me it's especially important to take as little stuff as possible. On these short trips, I almost always travel with the hand luggage only. On the long flights, I usually prefer to check in a suitcase, but not short business trips. It's a small bag that makes moving around much easier. Just like with the long distance trip, it's best to book direct flights. It sounds obvious, but many people still try to save money by choosing the connections, and in short trip it's almost always extra stress. Also pay attention to the airline. I do prefer to choose the carrier known as the punctuality. Even if the ticket is a bit more expensive, the risk of delays is lower, which means less chance for the missing meeting of the return flight and fewer negative emotions. Now, I would like to talk about the choosing a seat on the plane. This is especially important to long flights, and here's all I will share with my own approach and the personal experience. If you are flying in a business class, of course, the exact seat doesn't play such a big role. The level of the comfort is already enough. But if you are flying in economy or premium economy, the seat you choose can seriously change the quality of the flight. Everyone has their own preferences. Some people like the aisle seat, some prefer the window, some don't mind in the middle. My personal choice is the window seat. If there are two seats in the row by the window, I try to pick up the aisle one. Why? Often people who see the aisle seat booked less likely will book the window seat, but will be looking for the another aisle few rows behind. There is the chance that the seat next to you will stay free. On the bigger planes like 3-4-3 layout, I prefer the window seat. There is also a decent chance that the seat next to you will remain empty, especially if the flight is not fully booked. There's even an unspoken rule among the frequent flyer. Experienced passengers often take the seats on the sides, so there is a free middle seat, give a bit more space. Of course, this works only when the plane is not completely full. Don't be afraid to talk about the cabin crew. They can help you to move to better seat if they see that there are free places available. But there are two important points. Don't wait until the very end. As soon as the plane reaches the cruising altitude and the fasten seatbelt sign off, you can politely ask the crew. And the second, don't change the seat on your own without asking. This can create awkward situation and the seat is already taken or reserved for another category of the passengers. Now let's move on to the hotel's location. Hotels also have this day specific here. On the short trips, I always try to arrange a late checkout in advance. If you stay in the same hotel chain, they can give you late checkout most of the time automatically. If it's an independent hotel, it's better to ask about a late checkout ahead of time. Normally, on such trip, the meeting takes place in the first half of the day, and it's very important to have the chance to come back to your room, rest a little bit, pack your things without rushing. Are much better than going to the airport straight from the meeting. You should also plan your route from your hotel to the airport in advance. Many apps and the services show average traffic at a certain time of the day, and that can really help. If you are in a city where there are the traffic jams, I would recommend considering the public transport. In many big cities, it's faster to get into the airport by train, and it's much more reliable than taxi during the rush hours. Even if the train or taxi about the same time, the train is usually more predictable. And once all of this is done, the hotel, the meeting, the packing, trip to the airport, there comes the moment when the travel truly shifts. You pass security, find your gate, and now it's time to onboard. This is where the next part of the journey begins. In this part, I want to talk about the time we spend on the plane. How we sleep, what we wear, how we work, and how we rest. A plane is a small world of its own, with its own rules and limitations. And to make this part of the trip comfortable and productive, both for work and for the rest, I followed a few simple principles that I learned through the many flights. What to wear. For moving around the airport and flying in general, I always recommend comfortable clothing. Forget flying in the suit. Save yourself and save your suit. Business clothes cheese easily. They get dirty quickly, and they simply don't let your body relax. I always choose the soft, stretchy, comfortable clothes that don't restrict movements. Even if your flight technically counts as the working time, dressing formally doesn't make sense on the plane. Your jacket will not survive the overhead compartment. Someone will put their bag on it, drop something, apologize, and wherever they pull back won't look as neat as before. Shoes should also be comfortable. I always take off my shoes during the flight. It simply helps me to relax. Keep in mind that after the long flight, your feet can swell a bit, and stiff shoes quickly become a real problem. Don't forget the compression socks. Just don't put them too early. It's better to put them once you are already on board, just before the takeoff. Always check the weather at destination. I've had the moments when I left hot country and arrived in the cold, windy European winter, thinking the plane would taxi directly to the warm gate, and instead we walked down to the stairs into the +1 Celsius in the light shirt. The opposite also happens when you arrive in the winter into the 35 heat and must walk from the plane to arrival entrance. Nowadays there is plenty of the lightweight clothing that takes no space in the back. It's worth planning ahead. New connections. This topic works both ways. On the long flights, you sometimes end up next to someone with an interesting story. And simple conversation can make the flight feel shorter. And sometimes you learn something genuinely useful. I can give you an example. When I had just moved to the Netherlands and was flying to the US, the person next to me told me a lot about the Dutch education. 7 hours went by instantly, and I learned things that were actually very helpful, and especially because I have the two children studying in the Dutch schools. But it's important to read the signals. If the person is short in their replies, look at their screen, or clearly wants to rest, respect that. Not every flight is the right moment for the conversation. Still, small human interaction like this can help to relax and take your mind off the tomorrow meeting. And for the pre-sale professional, ability to connect with people, even for a minute, is always useful. Now let's switch to the working on board. Working on the plane can be useful, but it's important to treat it properly. I never start working right after takeoff. I usually work in the second half of the flight, when most passengers are already sleeping. That's the best moment for me to focus. I eat, relax, sleep a bit, and then, when others are still sleeping, except crew, I'm working more productive. But there's the one rule I always follow. Never leave important task for the flight. A plane is not the office. It's noisy, it's cramped, and unpredictable. Any delay, unexpected turbulence, or simple tiredness can ruin your plans. If you save the key preparation for the flight, you will spend the whole time under pressure, and that pressure will take away the rest you need. Looking through the presentation or fixing the couple details is fine, but the main preparation must be done before you board. Otherwise, all flight becomes the one long stress. And now let's talk about the rest. Rest is one of the most important things during the long flight. Here are the few things that works for me. Travel essentials. Noise cancelling headphones or earplugs and sleeping mask. If you are not in the business class and didn't get lucky with the 3 seats, the most comfortable position for sleeping is simply sitting upright, with the head supported by the folding wings on the headrest. Another options, if you sit at the window, no one climbs over you and you can lean against the wall. Avoid seats near toilets or galleys. They are noisy and bright. Take off your shoes. It makes a real difference. And comfortable clothing again is half of the good rest. And we know there's a lot of media on the planes nowadays. I spend more and more on my flights time watching documentaries about the sport, nature, or hobbies. But movies are great too, especially when you want to relax and disconnect from the work. Games are optional. The main thing is to choose something that's help you either rest or pass the time pleasantly. Now, let's move to the next topic. That's what should we do or what we do in the transit. Many people think that the transit is the time, is something annoying, something that you just have to survive. But over the years, I realized that the layover can actually be the very useful part of the journey. It's not wasted time if you use it right. After sitting for the several hours on the plane, the best thing you can do in the transit is simply walk. Move your legs, stretch a bit, feel your body again. It really helps you wake up and feel more alive before the next flight. Transit is also the moment when you can listen to what your body needs. Airplane food is not always the best. Sometimes it doesn't really give you energy. In the airport, I usually grab something light, drink a normal coffee or tea, and most importantly, water. After the flight, you are always dehydrated, and transit is the easiest moment to fix it. Sometimes small conversation happen during the layover, at the cafe, in the lounge, or just standing in a line. Such short interaction help you to switch off from the road and reset from mind to a little. If the person next to you clearly doesn't want to talk, that's fine too. But in general, transit can be a good moment for relax mentally. Of course, there is also the practical side. I always check the gate, departure time, and make sure nothing has changed. At big airports, gates can be far apart, and it's better to know earlier than to run at the last minute. If you have access to the lounge, use it. Not because of luxury, but because it's quiet space. You can sit, eat something simple, charge your devices, and calm down a bit before the next part of your trip. Especially before your important meeting, this quiet moment helps you to get thoughts in order. Over the time, everyone develops their own transit rituals. Some people watch their series, some do the brisk exercise, some call their family. For me, transit is the pause between the two parts of the journey, a moment to release a bit attention and prepare for what comes next. Good transit can really change the whole trip. And if you treat it as the part of the process rather than the problem, travel becomes much easier. Now, the night before the meeting, preparing your mind and body for the big day. The evening before the important meeting is not the time for the perfectionism or endless polishing. I've made this mistake myself more than once, staying up late, trying to fix small details, thinking it would somehow improve the result. Sometimes the people even push themselves to wake up early in the morning. Maybe you will be managed to the change slide or at the phrase, but the effect of poor sleep and exhaustion will be much stronger than any small improvement. This is the moment what do people really value in the professional. A clear mind, good energy, and ability to think fast and stay focused. None of that works if you are half asleep. It's much more important to arrive well rested after the trip and with the refresh head. First mistake I made is late night final touches. Let me give you example from my experience. One of those moments that taught me a lesson. I once stayed up very late working on the presentation, polishing it until I was completely exhausted. I slept badly and came to the meeting already tired. During the presentation, I felt how difficult it was to express the complex ideas or give the detailed answers. And as we all know, meetings often go differently from the plan. Some slides get skipped completely because the discussion takes over. After the meeting, the level of the tiredness was close to the critical, and all this happened because preparation, travel, working after travel, and meeting itself created a huge amount of the accumulating fatigue. Then you get invited to the dinner with the client, but you have no straight left. Even though you know this dinner is important for building a more personal connection. Imagine how you look at the dinner. The client chooses the nice restaurant, calls the key people, expecting a relaxed but still meaningful conversation between potential partners. And you sit there thinking about how to get back to the hotel as soon as possible and how to politely refuse a drink. Don't underestimate these moments. They matter. But to use them well, you need to be in your best state, like you are doing to your own birth celebration, expecting a great evening. Second mistake I did is early morning fixing. Another situation is when you leave some small fixes for ever early in the morning, like 4 p.m. Yeah, you wake up, open the laptop, and try literally to keep your eyes open to fix something in the last minute. Constantly checking the time, realizing that the breakfast is already starting. By the time you get to the breakfast, it feels like you already lived a half a day. Add the lack of the sleep and the long flight, and you have a perfect recipe for either failure or heroic effort. And we don't need the heroism here anymore. They belong to the history books about the wars. Ask yourself honestly, do you want to work with the partner who burns out and pushes themselves into the hero mode? Or with someone who lives in the balance and makes smart, healthy decisions? And in the end, the day still goes exactly the same way as in the first example. You start tired, you finish tired, you miss the important interaction simply because you pushed yourself too far. The night before the meeting should not be about squeezing the last drop of energy out yourself. It should be about preparing your mind and body for tomorrow, with enough sleep, enough calm, and enough space to show your best self. What actually works? Now, I never work at night before the meeting. I choose to work with the clean head, not to be a hero. And what's work for me? It's the light dinner, short walk, quick review of the key points, and going to the bed on time. And here's the important part. The simple steps work much better than any late night race for the perfectionism. This experience taught me a clear rule. No unfinished line in the presentation is worth losing your clear mind in the meeting. The client doesn't need the perfect document. They need your focus, your energy, your ability to listen. That's why the best evening before the meeting is one that gives you the calm and the resources to perform at your best. Now, of course, during the business trip, it's worth spending a little time exploring the place you have arrived in, especially if it is the first time there and if the place you probably won't visit again anytime soon. I had many business trips to different countries, to all continents, and I always try to find at least a bit of time to get to know country better and see something interesting, and simply enjoying the moment. And here is some examples. In Houston, I visited the NASA Museum. When I was in Sydney, I took a ferry to the beach just to see the city from the water. In Reykjavik, I had a great time walking through the old town. I even saw the hot dog stand where the Bill Clinton once bought the hot dog. These are just a few examples, but the impression stayed in me for the years. And what's interesting, they changed the way I remember the whole trip. Even the business part feels more positive when the trip gives you something personal as well. Yeah, of course, I'm not saying that you should treat the business trip like a personal vacation. That wouldn't be right. But if you have a time and if it doesn't interfere your work, why not use it? Honestly, the most boring and pointless way to spend the time on a business trip is sitting in your hotel room with the laptop or lying down in the bed and flipping through the TV channels. Even a short walk around the hotel is better than doing nothing and waiting for your return flight. Going back to those three examples I mentioned, Houston and Sydney and Reykjavik, they show one simple truth. Depending on your interest, your hobby, and that inspires you, you can always find something meaningful in the place. You don't need the whole day. Even the small moment can make the trip richer and more memorable. When you allow yourself to experience something local, even something very small, the whole trip becomes easier and more enjoyable. You come back to the hotel not empty but with a small emotion, a picture that stays with you and that changes the way you feel, both about the trip and about yourself. And also prepares you for the next important part, the flight home, which surprisingly has a big impact on how quickly you recover and how you return to your normal rhythms. The flight back home is something many people don't pay attention to. The meeting is over, work is done, adrenaline is gone, and it feels like the only thing left is to survive on the trip home. But the return flight is actually very important. It often decides how quickly you recover and what kind of the person your family or colleagues will see when you land. Over the time, I understood one simple thing. The way you fly back is part of your recovery. It's the moment when you can finally slow down, take a breath, and let the whole trip settle. If the flight to the client is about the focus and preparation, then the flight home is about giving yourself space to relax. And here, you have a choice. You can board on the plane, exhausted, tense, barely holding yourself together, and then you'll step out of the plane exactly like that, tired, drained, and with no energy left. Or you can give yourself the proper rest. Watch the movie you enjoy, listen to music, sleep if you can, or simply sit quietly without any pressure. Even a little bit the rest change how you feel when you land. And this is the important for one more reason. You don't arrive into the empty space, you arrived home. Your loved ones meet you, and the way they see you at the moment depends on a lot on how you treated yourself during the flight. With a smile and fresh energy, you will be happily greet to the people who are dear to you, or with the tired face of someone who looks completely worn out. I have noticed this many times in my own life. When I gave myself permission to relax on the way back, I arrived home with more energy, more desire to talk, more desire to share what happened during the trip. But when I flew home in survival mode, the whole evening turned into simply trying to reach the pillow. So treat return flight as an essential part of the business trip, not just a piece of the logistic. It's the moment of the self-care, of professionalism and honesty, of respect for the people waiting you at home. When you come home with the clear head and normal energy, you really feel the difference. And it's in the moments that you understand how important all the small decisions were. How you prepared, how you slept, how you handled the flight, transit, and evening before the meeting. And even the way you return home. All these things are not written in our job descriptions, but they shape the quality of our work and the quality of our life. With time, I gathered a simple set of the habits that helps me to stay balanced during the business trip. They are not complicated. They don't require any special knowledge, but they work. So, in the final part of the episode, I want to share 10 simple solutions for healthy travel and help me stay focused, feel better, and enjoy journey a bit more. So now, the 10 solutions for healthy travel. First, move, but don't overtrain. Sport is great, but heavy workout during the business trip only take your energy. A walk, a light run, or short swim work much better. A simple fact, after travel, your body needs to wake up, not to be pushed even harder. Second, don't leave unfinished tasks for the trip. If you take unresolved work with you, it will follow you through the whole journey. Simple fact, open tasks drain your energy, even when you try to rest. Number 3, walk during the transit and talk to people. A short walk resets your body, and a small conversation can reset your mind. And the fact here is, moving after long sitting helps more than any pill for the tiredness. Number 4. When crossing time zones, avoid very early and very late arrivals. Your body still lives in the old time zone for several hours. Arriving at the wrong time confuses your internal rhythms and makes adaptation much harder. Number 5. Connect with people along the way. A short, friendly chat on the plane or in the cafe makes the whole trip feel lighter. Talking to someone shifts your attention and your stress level drops. Number 6. Create one small non-work memory. A cup of coffee in the local cafe, a short visit to museum, a nice view, anything. Even one small experience makes the trip warmer and more personal. Number 7. Rest on the way back. The return flight is the perfect time to recover. How you fly home defines how you arrive. Tired or ready to reconnect with your family. Number 8. Dress comfortably. You are not in the meeting room yet, so choose clothes that let your body relax. If your body feels comfortable, your mind relaxes faster too. Number 9. Don't carry your luggage around the airport unless you have to check your baggage in it. Free your hands. When you don't carry extra weight, both your body and your head feels lighter. And finally, number 10, don't underestimate the small things. Sleep mask, earplugs, compression socks, and comfy pillow, they really help. One small item can solve one big problem: noise, light, swelling, or discomfort. If any of these resonates with you, try using one of two of these tips during your next trip. Maybe they will give a new impression. You might feel the same difference that I once felt myself. Thanks for listening my podcast, Solution for Pre-Sales, and I will see you in new episode. Bye.